in-depth and God-filled conversations with some of the brightest names in contemporary Christian music and worship. This is The Artist Interview with Gordon T.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Artist Interview. I'm your host, Gordon T, and it's my absolute privilege and pleasure to bring to you artists from the world of contemporary Christian music and worship and hear a little bit about their story and feature some of their great music. And you know, this is a very special episode because normally I'm in the UK broadcasting and we have people join me on Zoom and it's lovely. But right now I am in Nashville, Tennessee, in the home of Jodi and Chris. That's Loving the Outcome. And we're doing a very special in-person episode of The Artist Interview. So before we meet Jodi and Chris, let's hear their first track. It's Look What God Has Done. And that was Look What God Has Done by Loving the Outcome. And I'm so glad to be here right now in Nashville, Tennessee, in the home of Jodi and Chris from Loving the Outcome. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey.
Welcome here.
We're good.
Really, really lovely to see you. We had you on the show before, always via Zoom, but it's great to be in Nashville, in your home. So now, obviously, since you've first been on the show, time's passed. We've actually, as a station, done some great stuff, and We've got it syndicated out to numbers of different stations worldwide. So not everyone will have heard your story so far. So can you give us a little snapshot about your life so far, how you became Christians, and how you got to be a band together?
Sure. Yeah, well, Chris was in a British rock band, or they wanted to be British.
Desperately wanted to. We were from the middle of Canada, but we loved Radiohead, we loved Coldplay, we loved U2. That's what we wanted to be.
And Delirious.
Oh, gosh.
So I walked in to hear Chris's band play, and he was playing a Delirious song in a pub. And I was like, that's it. I need this man in my life. It's got to happen. He's hot and he loves Jesus. That's my whole list. That's what I'd been praying for. So we became friends. We ended up leading worship together for a good year and traveling in a minivan across Canada. And I was like, babe, do you want to be in my band? Let's do this.
That's right. And I said, I do.
And we became, we weren't Loving the Outcome officially. We were a husband and wife duo with no name. And we came down to Nashville, Tennessee for some writing sessions, opened for the Newsboys, ended up signing a record deal, long story short, and took us like a year to come up with a name. But finally, we were like, we need God in our name. So God is love, and we are the outcome. And that's how we landed on that name.
That is very cool. Now, obviously, getting a record deal for lots of artists, that is like their dream, but that will happen. Mm-hmm. Opening for the Newsboys. I saw the Newsboys on, was it Monday night? I don't know which day's which now. I think it was Monday night I saw them. So, and they were great. So, how did that actually happen? There's always a story behind, and you didn't just come from Canada and open for the Newsboys. That doesn't happen.
No, they came to us.
They came to Canada.
We had a Canadian winter jam happen. They set that up for a couple of years, and the Newsboys headlined it, and we got to be part of that tour. So we were...
Yeah, Michael Tate had just joined the Newsboys. So he would stand side stage and watch our set every night. And we're like, felt so nervous. Like Michael Tate is like critiquing our set, when in fact he was cheering us on, which is a really good reminder. How much of the time do we spend our lives worried about other people's opinions, when in fact, why don't we just think that they're cheering us on? Wow. And that's what he was doing. And he was a real advocate. He's like, come to my town, come to Nashville. What are you doing in Toronto? Like, you need to sign a Christian record deal. And you're right. There is no overnight success. The long road is not the wrong road. To anybody listening who's been working on a dream for a really long time, and you're just like, what on earth? Like, did I hear God wrong? Am I on the wrong road? There's no wrong road. If you're walking with God, it's all just a part of the process. And so it took us a long time, about 10 years of playing little shows, pubs, leading worship at churches, house concerts, and then finally opening for the Newsboys after probably 10 years of grinding it out on the road. We, in fact, sold everything that we owned and lived in our Jetta, staying with friends.
So you lived in a what?
Jetta.
What's that?
A car.
You lived in a car?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like it could have some challenges. Is it a very, very big car? Does it have a bathroom and a shower?
Oh my gosh.
It was a diesel, so we didn't spend much on gas.
We got good gas mileage. This is what it looks like to work on a dream. It's not all glamorous. I always tell people that when, the first time we were at Winter Jam and everyone was singing He Is With Us back to us. And I was standing there going, I wish I had a second to tell every single person in this audience that the long road is not the wrong road, because it's been long for us. But here we are. And now we have so much to say.
Yeah. And a platform as well to say it on,
right.
to the journey you've been through,
That's
clearly.
Right.
So
yeah.
Tell us some highs from that journey, from before you got signed, and tell us some of the struggles.
Well, it's always a high to play with your husband. We were both in separate bands for a long time, and it was kind of awkward. You're like, yeah, I'm singing on the stage, and I'm like, hey, cool, man. And I'm like, not looking at my husband. So it's just like not as much fun to hang out with dudes that you don't love. So doing this together has always been awesome, except when it's not, when you're like, oh, I'm married to you, and we're in a fight, and now we have to get on stage and play a show.
But you're both laughing about it and smiling. So that's good.
Stage therapy is a real thing for us.
Yeah. We always joke, we're like, well, we have a perfect marriage, so just putting it on.
Yeah.
Not. But no, it's mostly been awesome, and it gets real. And I think that's actually a part of the DNA of our band. I think people love the songs, but I think they get a sense of, wow, they're married. They actually love each other. They really work hard at their marriage and their life with God. And so it's really not just a music brand. I feel like it's a brand of like encouragement and hope to just live your real life and just enjoy your real life. Like if we're all just living for vacation or for the record deal, it's a pretty small life, right?
Yeah.
If that's the only focus. But if it's like, man, I'm reaching for this goal, but I'm not going to forget to love the people around me, to see the people around me, yeah, we try and do that. We don't always do it well, but we try.
So enjoy the journey, no matter where you are on the stage of getting to where you're going.
That's right. And yell when you need to. God's not scared about that. You don't need to just have this perfect smile on your face all the time. Like toxic positivity is not the same as faith. Faith and hope is really just like, man, bringing your real self to God and going through it with God, not pretending it's going well all the time. And so don't hear us saying that. It has not gone well all the time. It has been hard, but it's been glorious to have those moments where people are singing something back to you that you wrote to get through your moment. Like we wrote He Is With Us in the back of our Jetta with hardly any cash and nothing to prove. Like nothing to be like, look at us, we're awesome. Like nothing. We were just trying to make it through to go, God, I know you're with us even though this feels hard. I know you're with us, even though nothing's going right. And so you write it from that place, and then you hear people singing it, and it's part of their story. And those are definitely highlights along the way.
Yeah, I can imagine. And especially it's also encouraging when you look back and you look at some of the challenges, and then you see that as long as you keep going back to God with all of the stuff, when there's mess, rubbish, things not going to plan, because our plans sometimes are very different from God's plans.
Yeah.
But if we keep on going back to Him, actually looking back, there's so much encouragement in knowing that God was always with you through it as well.
Yes.
So let's talk about marriage for a moment then. How long have you been married now?
19 years.
19 years. You do not look old enough. So I've been married 30 years. So
you don't look old enough either.
This is home. Don't know how young I look on it. It's moisturizer.
Yeah.
So
tell me about your exfoliator.
Yeah. So my wife always tells me off for not having a better program on that. But there we go. Okay. So marriage. You mentioned the words perfect marriage, and that is a very interesting phrase because for, I guess, lots of people who might want to get married have a dream of having this perfect marriage, and I would like to know what is your thoughts on what is perfect marriage?
Why don't you take this one, babe?
Well, maybe we are strange because we like spending a lot of time together, and I don't know if that is necessarily the norm, but we kind of met in a band situation, so we were very used to living together on the road in that way, and that has kind of translated into just regular life. And I mean, there are challenges every day of taking the kids to school and somebody's not listening, and how do we deal with that? But
well, we deal with it with you making me lots of coffee. Rule number one in a perfect marriage: husband makes coffee.
He made me a coffee, and I don't feel that that's part of our marriage. It was a very nice coffee,
right?
So
I am not a morning person, but I have kind of transformed into one thanks to good coffee, good coffee habits.
I think that's an important point. I think that it's really easy to say, "Oh, I'm not this, I'm not that." Well, you know what? Partnership means showing up in ways that are sometimes uncomfortable, and that's part of it, right? I mean, and also being who you are within the partnership, because how boring would it be if we were just the same person? If you get married and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we spend lots of time together for sure, but like I go to dance class on Tuesday night, Chris has boys' night with our kids. Like the going apart from each other, making sure we're growing individually is what makes it work when we come back together.
Yes. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that
there's a lot of grace during the playoffs.
Yeah. So I don't know anything about sport, so I've no idea what the playoffs actually are. But I imagine it's something to do with sports. So yeah, okay. So that's fine. Perfect marriage is such a crazy thing because people have all these dreams, which truthfully, when you get married, actually that's when
it gets real.
The rubber hits the road, and I think one of the things is about growing together always, even through the things that are divisive, even the things that are challenges that make you go, this is a horrible situation to be in. There are times when if there's a fight going on, my wife and I, we don't fight often, but if we do, it is quite painful for both of us. So we have disagreements about things. Yeah. But actually, just knowing that God loves you and God puts things back together and forgiveness and restoration. It's exciting doing that though.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot too. We're similar. We don't fight a lot. But one thing we've realized over the years is that we now fight from the same side. And that's been a really helpful shift in thinking. Like we're on the same team, fighting for the same thing. We just see this differently.
Yeah.
And when you can start from that place, wow, it changes everything. And another thing that I tell myself a lot, because I don't know about your wife, we need to meet her one day because I'm sure she's incredible.
She is.
But sometimes the story I tell myself is very different than the story Chris is actually trying to tell me. And I've interpreted it wrong. And so we have a song on our new record. I know we're not playing it on this interview, but if people want to check it out, it's called Start From There. And we wrote it about the fact that even when we are in a disagreement, if I can tell myself, okay, I know that Chris loves me, I'm going to start from there. That helps us so much as we work it out.
Yeah.
So just remembering like, man, I feel offended or I'm taking it personally, but wait, no, that's the story that's in my head. The true story is Chris loves me and I'm going to start from there.
That's a really helpful framework to have on it because it makes a world difference on the way you feel about anything, even when he's probably being, a pain to you. I'll put it that way. So
a pain. Come on. How could you even think that or say that to me?
So you got two kids.
Yes.
So
we do.
How old are they?
They're 7 and 5.
Okay. So that I can imagine it's a fun time.
Still blows my mind.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. So what are their names?
Milo and Ziggy.
It's cool names. How on earth does it work having two kids that age and being a band?
Oh, wow. Sometimes it just doesn't. And we are in public a lot when it doesn't work. And it's very hard to remember that I don't have to apologize for my kids being kids. And that's hard for me because I want to look good all the time. I don't know if anyone listening can relate, but I want to just appear like I have it all together. And so I'll end up being like, and it's like, no, our kid is tired. He's been on the road with his parents. There's a time change. He missed his bedtime. And that's just real. And instead of trying to apologize for our family or apologize for my kids being kids, just kind of owning it and going, this is hard right now. This is one of those moments where like the good outweighs the bad, but it's a hard late night flight. And we're just a family living life in front of you. And I feel like instead of that being a bad thing, it ends up working in that people feel permission to be themselves too and go, oh, they're just real people like doing real life. Okay. I don't need to feel so bad when my kid falls apart in public. Like this is just real life. Yeah.
In fact, I remember, I don't know, just a couple of years ago now, you told me a story about one time when someone came to you after a show and said, oh, your kids have been so well behaved. And then just in that moment, you look behind you, what was happening?
Oh man, Milo was kicking over poinsettias on the front of the stage and the pastor was watching him and I saw his eyes grow big and I was like, uh-oh, what's happening? And I turned around and I saw like hoof, hoof, hoof. And I was like, excuse me a moment.
The last show of that tour, and it was like the end of the night, and we were like, oh, we made it. Everything went so well.
High five.
No, we should have left 5 minutes ago. And
absolutely priceless. Just those moments when kids do something, I mean, you don't expect it, but actually amazing. The fact that they said they've been really great the whole time. It doesn't, on the road, tired kids, I wouldn't take my kids on the road.
Right.
It'd be a disaster.
And you know what? You have to make that choice. You're choosing chaos. You're choosing memories over it going well. You're choosing family time over sleep. And we know that every single time. Like, we're going to Florida this weekend and we didn't have to bring them. We had a sitter booked. They had birthday parties. They would have been happy. They would have been fine to stay at home. But we were like, should we ask them? So we were like, hey guys, do you want to come along? Yeah, we want to come with you. And Chris and I are like, whew, buckle up. We know it's going to be crazy, but it's also going to be beautiful. And we're going to choose to do this together. And we left the kids at home. We had to do some Canadian. We got to do some Canadian shows. We were nominated for a Juno, which is like the Canadian Grammy. And we were like, we have to go. This is a once in a lifetime. We have to go.
Well, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What was it? What category was it in?
Contemporary Christian Record of the Year.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, thanks. Wow. It was fun. And so, but we didn't have our boys along for a few things. And when I got back, I looked up in Milo's top bunk, and you wouldn't believe it. I should show you. He currently has a poster of ours in his top bunk looking at him. So it's mom and dad's face looking at him while he falls asleep.
Oh.
And I just thought, wow, okay, this is how much he wants to be with us. And I don't know how long that lasts. I hope for a long time, but we've done our best to not make them feel like an inconvenience, but to feel part of the journey. Like, we do this together.
Yeah.
You know? And so that kind of broke my heart when I got home and we left them at home and there was a poster of us in his bunk bed.
It's lovely. And I like it when you guys do live stuff on Insta and your kids are there jumping around. It always makes me smile seeing them there. They're clearly loving it. So
they do.
They're becoming more helpful too, more than like they used to be kind of part of the luggage, and now they can actually carry their own.
We carried them. Now they carry things.
Yeah. Better. That's cool. So tell us about the new music that you guys have been busy writing. How's the process going on it? What's it look like?
We've been doing it at home. That's very different for us. We've never written a record from our house before, but we've been through it with our house. Our house flooded. I'm sure some of your listeners know, if you follow us on Instagram, you've seen the process, the journey we've been surrendered to over the last 2 years. Our home flooded almost exactly 2 years ago, and we lifted it up 5 feet off the ground and rebuilt it.
When it was flooded, you don't mean just like a little flood. This was a significant flood that came through your house.
It ruined our entire house. We could have just bulldozed it to the ground, but we chose to do it.
I remember seeing you in tears on Insta, and it was like, and it was just this place, and it looks beautiful in here now, but this place was trashed.
It was trashed. It was completely trashed. It was like a tornado current of water had gone through our house when we walked in. There were socks that were put away in drawers over here on the other side of the house. It was a mess. It was impossible to fathom that it could ever look like it does today.
Did you lose a lot of personal stuff when that happened, or was
everything pretty much?
Okay. So,
well, what we saved, we put in, we tried to save like really special wedding gifts and, things like that. We put them in our trailer, and the trailer got stolen. So we ended up losing.
No, wait, hold it.
Everything.
You put all your stuff in the trailer. And the trailer got stolen. Now, I remember that this had happened just when I last interviewed you. And you didn't tell me in the interview about the trailer being stolen.
That's right. It was too hard.
Yeah, it was a painful moment, because I remember I asked Chris which biblical character you related to. Do you remember what you said?
I don't in this moment.
You said Job.
I say Job.
And nobody has ever said Job to me before. And I'm like, what is going on? And I was like, it was awful, because I wanted to find out that story, but you guys had to go and pick your kids up from school. So we were running out of time.
Happening in real time.
So it absolutely was. You guys were sitting, I think, out on a veranda somewhere at a friend's house or something. I'm not sure where.
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
And you said Job, and I went, there is a story behind someone saying that. So I'm clearly, I knew the house had gone, but that was not what you were talking about. So just before we interviewed you guys, your trailer had been stolen with all your stuff in it.
Yeah.
Absolutely gone. And when I found out that happened, maybe the next day or something, I saw it and I was like, oh my goodness, this is just so harsh. To lose your house and then to lose all of your extra stuff.
Yeah.
In moments like that, did you feel like giving up? Did you feel like, did you feel this is the end? We can't do it anymore?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I did. Did you?
Yeah, I honestly didn't know what to feel. And I think anyone who doesn't identify with Job might be lying to themselves, because everyone has
moments
had a Job experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. For anyone listening at home who's not familiar with the Bible, maybe just tuned in by accident, the story of Job is a really amazing story about a guy who faithfully loves God, but then the devil comes in and all this stuff happens to him. And I want to say stuff, I mean, it is extreme stuff. This guy loses absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And it's the story really about that process that he goes through on that, and the criticism he receives from other people, and actually just what happens is God restores. And it's an amazing story, but there's certainly some hard lessons as well in it.
Yeah.
But so you guys hit that rock bottom moment.
Yeah.
What were you praying and what were you saying to the kids?
Oh, man. Well, our kids, we've realized that they are really good at handling hard things. And we always feel this need as parents, or I have felt the need as a parent, to shield my kids from a lot of hard things. And of course, there's age appropriate conversations and there's not. But through this process of losing everything as a family, we've gotten a lot more comfortable in hard things. To give you an example, every night, we slept in 5 different places during the flood and the stolen trailer season. And we just kind of went from place to place because we thought our house would be fixed up a lot quicker than it was, but it took a really long time. And so every night we'd fall asleep with our kids. Chris and I would take turns laying on the ground with them on their air mattress. And every single night they would pray out loud, whatever they were thinking. And we lost a sweet neighbor, Harold, one of their best buddies. This 70-year-old man fell down his stairs and had a heart attack and died. And that happened while we weren't living at the house. But Harold my kids loved him. So the night after Harold died, we told them that Harold died in the midst of this hard season. We're laying there and Ziggy's like, "Dear God, I pray that you'd bring Harold back to life. God, could you bring him back to life?" And he's on one side of me and Milo's on the other side. Milo's like, "Ziggy, that's not how it works." And it was just, there have been too many moments like that to tell you and your listeners, but that is the sort of honesty and processing we've done over the last 2 years, just allowing our kids to voice how they feel. And as a parent, not fix it, not try and be like, no, it's going to be fine. No, you'll meet him in heaven one day. Like, no, you're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to tell God how you feel without mommy trying to go, it's going to be fine. Because you know what? The truth is sometimes things aren't fine.
Yeah.
And that's a really, really hard thing to wrestle with as a parent. Like, that'll keep me up at night. I wanted so badly to be able to say, yeah, Ziggy, like, he's definitely coming back to life. It's like, no, that's faith, honey. Pray for him to come back to life. If that's what it looks like for you, pray for that. And Milo, if it doesn't look like that for you, you don't have to pray that. It's such a reckoning of what truth really is. And that it takes a lot of bravery to not just put a silver lining and a happy bow on everything, and really just live in the tension of life is hard, God is good.
That is a tension that a lot of us do live with.
Yeah.
But I think the story of Job, there is a whole shift where things have gone from being awful to things being restored.
Yeah. Tell
me the story with the trailer. Your trailer's gone. You've lost absolutely everything. You guys are in an absolute pickle. What happened then?
So, well, the first step was just figuring out what insurance would help take care of. And then one of our friends generously set up a GoFundMe. And
more than that, I mean, he got online and was like,
you just realize that people are good. Like the generosity of people from literally around the globe, just contributing and helping us kind of find our feet.
Yeah.
And that was incredible.
Yeah. Carlos Whitaker lives just a few streets away. And so his basement had flooded. So he was a little bit in tune. He'd been on our podcast and we had gone to the same church. And so he was a buddy. But somehow someone had told him within his online community, hey, this family's like been through the ringer. We need to help them. And so all of a sudden our Venmo just started cha-ching, like constantly. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
So for those who are in different countries, what's Venmo?
Venmo is a way of, it's like an online way to send people money. It's like a PayPal or something like that.
Okay.
And so, but we didn't know at this point that Carlos was doing this. We didn't know what was happening. We just started seeing our phone build up with all these $1 donation, $50 donation, 50 cents, $300, like just everybody doing what they could.
Wow.
And Carlos calls me. He's just like, how much did your trailer cost? And what do you think the contents were worth? And I'm like, why is he asking me this? And I was like, I don't know. I gave him a number. I was like, I had no idea. And he's like, okay, we got it covered. And I was like, you got it covered. Well, they went on to like give us, I think they gave us enough to buy a tour vehicle and a trailer. And it was just such a humbling moment. It was a crazy moment. I've never experienced generosity like that. It was also very humbling because we could have kept the story to ourselves. And I think that's something I want to share with people that are listening. Like, it's hard to be vulnerable about the hard stuff you're going through. But when you're vulnerable, it helps other people go, wait, I've had hard times too. Let's bond together and help. So we can't help each other if no one shares what they're going through. You can't pray for each other. You can't Venmo each other. Like, we have to get a little more comfortable in the uncomfortable. And so I'm thankful, even though I bawled my head off telling everyone on social media what had happened, I was so embarrassed. I was like, what next? This is humiliating, But I look back and I'm like, it actually let people in to our story, and it allowed people to be kind of part of God's family and just help restore what had been taken.
Wow. I'm going to ask, what was the final figure that God gave you?
You know what? I'm embarrassed to say, do you remember? I don't remember. Was it around 30?
It was something like that.
Around 30,000.
Yeah.
30,000 US dollars.
Yeah.
It's a huge sum of money.
It's
amazing. It shows how many people do care and love you.
It's crazy.
And it's a great example of people coming together and things being restored. So you got a new trailer. So in the trailer you had all your merch and all the rest of it and everything. So
we had merch, we had clothes, we had like my entire wardrobe was in there. We had like our dresser from our wedding. I mean, it was all the knickknacks we could salvage from the flood.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think there's two sides, right? It's okay to acknowledge loss. And I think sometimes within Christianity, we're very uncomfortable with that. We like to give Christian cliches and just say, everything happens for a reason. And it's like, yeah, God is always working and there is always good that's going to come because that's just who God is. But you know what? Does the person going through the hard thing really need to hear that? Like, everything happens for a reason. No, I felt much safer with people that were like, wow, I hate that this has been your journey, but I love that I can love you in this journey. Yeah. That felt so much more honest and safe. And so I think it's just for anyone listening, like if you have lost a job, you've lost a loved one, COVID was hard, finances are hard, there's been loss in your life, you don't need to pretend that loss isn't real. Like, you can stay in that and say, this sucks, this is hard. You're not a bad Christian if that's how you feel. But the other side of it is God is always loving and working and seeing and using people to come around you. So both are true. Two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first track that you played for you guys was Look What God Has Done, and a beautiful track. But right now, the track we got for you is Only Ever Always. Can you tell us about that track?
Yeah, gladly. I could hardly listen to that song without crying after we wrote it. I needed to write that song because I deal with a lot of shame in my head. I'm sure nobody listening deals with any shame. It's just me. But if you do, I really had to understand that God doesn't do shame. God's voice is love. So if you're hearing shame in your head, that's probably your own voice, because there's a real difference between condemnation and conviction. There is no condemnation for those in Christ. Conviction is a loving father saying, hey, I love you, but this isn't working. Let's try this. It's like what I do with my kids. I have to discipline. I have to train my kids. So I'm not just like, do whatever you want. I'm helping them become the best they can be, but I'm not shaming them in my parenting, or at least I'm trying not to, right? I'm going, you're a good kid that just did a not so good thing. That is so different than being shamed and condemned. God doesn't do that. And so this is a song about reminding people, no, God doesn't do shame. God only ever always loves you.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Jodi and Chris, for all you've shared so far. This is your track, Only Ever Always.
I don't want to keep my distance. Don't want anything between us. Close enough to hear you whisper. I don't want to miss a word you say. Yeah, I want to tell you everything. The good, the bad, the ugly things. Even if I fall apart, I'll be falling in your arms. Cause I know you won't let go of me. You only ever always love me. You only ever always hold me. You only ever always show me. More than anyone you know me. I'm only ever always yours.
And that was Only Ever Always by Love and the Outcome. I'm so pleased to say we've got Chris and Jodi with us right now here live in Nashville from their home. Thank you guys for all that you've shared so far of your story. If you would be happy to pray for listeners right now, that would be
Yes.
really great.
Absolutely. Babe, why don't you start us off and then I'll jump in.
Father, we are just grateful to be here, grateful to be on the air, that this technology is working to send these words and this message to everyone who is listening, wherever you are. And the most important message right now is just that God loves you. He, just like Jodi said, God doesn't do shame. So if you're feeling shameful, if you're feeling embarrassed today, just know that God is speaking to you now, that he loves you and that you are welcome. You are loved.
Yeah, God loves you so much. God says, just exactly who you are is who I want to hang out with today. And so don't feel like you have to change who you are to be loved by God. Just start where you are. Like God will meet you there. If you're in your car, if you're at work, wherever you are, just take a second and breathe in and breathe out and just go, I am loved by God, and see how that changes your day. We just pray you have a great day. There's a lot of miracles that happen in the mundane of life. And just that we would, God, have our eyes open, that anyone listening right now would just be aware of your presence and have eyes to see who needs love, who needs a smile, who needs a coffee, God, that we would feel so loved that we would go and give your love away to those around us today. So we thank you for every single person tuned in, and thank you for their life. In your name, amen.
Amen. Amen. And if you're in the UK listening to the show right now and you're thinking, I don't know who this Jesus is that Chris and Jodi and Gordon are busy talking about, there are many churches that would love to welcome you and help you find out more of his love. Just pop on to www.findachurch.co.uk. And if you're listening to one of our partner stations worldwide, then just contact the studio and just say, hey, can you recommend a really great church? Because I'm sure they would love to do that for you. If you're living in Nashville, the church I went to last night was The Belonging. It was great. Which church do you guys go to?
That was the church we went to when we first got to town, but it was 50 people.
50 people?
It was 50 people.
Okay, it's a lot more than 50. How many people go there now? It's a
Thousands.
lot. Yeah, it's thousands.
Yeah.
Times 50.
Yeah. If anybody listening wants to check out our podcast, we interviewed Alex on our podcast a couple of years ago because she was a woman on stage in the South, which is very rare. And we were just like, whoa, okay. Alex and Henry at The Belonging are incredible. Nothing but good things to say about them. It's a really massive church now. And we were in a season where we needed some close community, something a little bit smaller and more intimate. So we're at a church just around the corner, just in our neighborhood. We could bike ride there. We don't. But we lead worship there when we're not on the road. It's called Crevewood. And
sorry, it's called what?
Crevewood. Crevewood Church.
Okay.
And we love it.
Great. So how small is it?
150?
It's something like that. Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes a small church is just what you need because it is much easier to have community in that setting. You don't feel lost and just one of a million people. You're there with people who know your lives and can care for you. So what sort of style of church? Do you lead worship? What sort of songs are you singing? Other than your own songs, which I don't know.
We do once in a while.
We do some of our own.
It's a bit of an older congregation, so they appreciate the hymns.
Okay.
So we've reworked some of our favorite hymns. We still play a lot of contemporary worship
we did last week's set list included, what's the new song? It's not new, but I'm blanking on the name, about I can't remember it.
Thou Found?
No, we did. I love that hymn,
Yes.
but that's not the one I'm thinking of.
Hmm.
It'll come to me. We did
Okay.
Come Thou Fount. We'll just leave it at that. I can't remember the name of the others.
but some great reworkings of some old songs as well.
Include everybody, you know? Do some new ones, do some old ones.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your favorite worship song maybe from the last 2 years?
Ooh.
Not one of your own, although they are very good.
Thank you. You jump in. I clearly can't think of a song to save my life right now. So
it's a bit of a cheat because we have a friend in the band, but God So Loved by
We the Kingdom.
We the Kingdom.
Who's your friend in the band?
Well, we've written a few songs.
I don't know all of them. Yeah, they're good friends of ours. Our first record, if you go back and listen to The Story You're Building in Me, we wrote that with Ed Cash, who is the dad.
Yeah.
In the band.
And one of our best friends is their tour manager. So
we love them.
Love you, Jeremy.
Yeah, well, they are one of my favourite bands.
They're
so
great.
I do really like We the Kingdom. I've said that lots of times on air, so so I should stop saying it. 'Cause I've heard that before, but it's totally true.
It's Love in the Outcome, and then We the Kingdom. I know it's
so we started singing some We the Kingdom songs on Sunday mornings at our church as well.
They're great songs.
They're
great songs.
They really are. So okay, you've written a book.
Yeah, I have.
Tell us about the book.
Woo! I can't. If anyone's listening, it's equal parts nerve-wracking and exciting to be stepping into speaking a lot more. At women's conferences, at churches, I'm preaching twice this summer. Like, what in the world? I can't call it that because that word makes me really nervous. Because I've said my whole life, like, I'm a singer, not a preacher. And God's like, yeah, but you love to share. So just do that. And so just remember, if you're listening, like, you don't need to do Beth Moore's version. I don't need to be Beth Moore. There already is one. I can just be me. So just be who you are and let God use you where you are. And so during COVID, I started writing a devotional book, and it's a very practical day-to-day 5-minute sort of pivot back towards God, because it gets crazy, right? Life gets crazy. And sometimes I just needed to sit down, dig into a verse, and have that reminder to go okay, I'm okay. God's got me. I can do this. So it's called You Got This, a guide to ditching perfect and showing up for your real life.
I like that. I'm definitely all for ditching perfect. So, and is it on Amazon?
It is actually. And you can actually just go, it's on our website, loveintheoutcome.com, or you can go to iamjodiking.com.
Okay. Because you are Jodi King.
I am.
.com. So, okay, that's cool. Have you read the book?
I have edited the book.
Edited the book.
But yes, I have read it. Yes.
Would you recommend it?
I spell checked it. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. Okay.
Perfect Mother's Day gift.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good point.
It would be a perfect Mother's Day gift, but if you're in the UK, you have to wait till next year for Mother's Day.
You'll be really ahead of the game.
Yeah, buy it now in advance because our Mother's Day is already gone.
That's right.
Get out of here. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because we actually really value our mothers, so we think it should be earlier. You guys are a bit slow on that one. So yeah, okay. So I tell you what, it'd be interesting just to find out though a little bit about the book itself. Mm-hmm. Have you had people read it and come back to you with going, "Oh, this has helped because of some situation"?
Oh my gosh. I just feel like mom guilt is it's such a big deal and nobody talks about it. There's a lot of things that as women aren't talked about a lot in church. I'm not really sure why that is. So I just get a lot of thank you so much for taking this lie that's been in my head my whole life and replacing it with this truth. And that's a tool everyone needs, right? Yeah. Just to be well, God says this about me. I've been thinking this about myself, but God actually says this about me. And I get a lot of that. I think women feeling free to let go of the guilt, let go of other people's goals. Because guilt and shame comes when we're sort of aimed at somebody else's life to go, oh my gosh, they're a mother like that. I have to do it like that. It's no, you don't. If that doesn't work for you, let that go. Just do it your own way. And so I think it's just giving women permission to show up as they are, feeling loved, and to be a mom every mom is a rock star. Every woman's a rock star when you just show up for your life.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I tell you what, the truth sets you free.
That's right.
It changes your thinking, and all of us carry just lies in our heads that make us less able, they cripple us from being able to enjoy the life that God's given us. Mm-hmm. So getting some truth in there, changing your thinking, and believing the things that God says about us, it's an enormous life changer. So
huge.
Sounds like an absolutely great book to have written. Can you tell me about some stories from when you've been on the road then and you've performed? Have you had people afterwards say the song you performed changed me or did something in me?
Oh, countless stories, and it's the gas in the tank for us. Like, I think people always apologize. Oh, you probably hear this all the time, ... And it's like, no, you know what? The life of a musician can be like anybody. It can be lonely at times where you're questioning, am I doing the right thing? Like, is this worth anything? Because you write all these songs in this little bubble, in this little studio room. Some see the light of day, some don't. And then you're just like, when you're on stage and you're watching somebody kind of light up from receiving a truth, because music just communicates in such a different way. I know you know that. That's probably why you do what you do. So being able to see people go, man, I don't got this, but your song, you got this. This is a funny story, and it's actually appropriate because the girl's from the UK. So there's a store called Topshop. I'm not sure if anybody listening knows. I had a girl from the UK shopping in Topshop for new jeans. Well, shopping for jeans is the worst, okay? First of all, only shopping for bathing suits is worse than that. And so she's in the changing room trying to fit into these skinny jeans, and they just don't fit. And so the story in her head is, I'm not good enough. My body doesn't look the way it's supposed to look. I'm not worth anything. I know it seems like an exaggeration, but any woman listening, and maybe men, it's just what we do. We just think we're not worth anything when the jeans don't fit. And so she found the song right in that moment. You Got This came on at Topshop.
No way.
Not a Christian store. It
certainly isn't.
No, right. And so she stopped and she listened. She took off the jeans. She said, I don't need these jeans. And it just empowered her. And I just think that's the cool thing about truth and about God's love. It meets you when you're trying on jeans. It meets you in church. It meets you where you are. And so she found us on Instagram, sent us a note and said, you don't know me. I just heard your song, You Got This. And you just helped me realize that I'm worth more than these stupid skinny jeans. I cried. I was like, that is the most relatable story. And so, hey, I'm so grateful.
That is a really cool, and a UK-based story exactly as well.
Right.
Once it jumps to that,
saved her 100 pounds too.
Right.
Yeah. no, I don't imagine many people here heard of Topshop, but people in the UK will know exactly what you mean. And I think they went bankrupt actually. So you
I
won't
think
get any
they
more
did,
from.
because I tried to order something from there the other day. I was like, oh no, she should have bought the jeans.
Oh dear. Okay. Now sometimes people say that comparison is the thief of joy. How on earth do you handle that? Because you guys are on a platform, you've got people telling you, so I'm going to guess your record label want you to perform, because if you don't perform well with your sales and all the rest of it, it's a big issue. And there is, make no beef about it, there's money behind this as well, because you guys need to earn to live, the record label needs to earn to carry on doing all the stuff they're doing. So all the time, you've got your figures and everybody else out there's figures. Do you guys look at the figures, or do you try and avoid them?
Our management is very good at keeping figures from us. Keep us sane.
You have a team to help you. If it was all on us, we would have lost it long ago. It's just too hard when you're, there's Instagram, there is TikTok and Facebook and Twitter, and then there's radio charts, and there's just, it's all around us, the message that we're not enough. Like, we don't have to look hard to find that message. It's everywhere, whether you're on a record label or whether you're a pastor or an athlete or whatever you do, right? And so I think something we remind ourselves is your passion doesn't need to be your paycheck. And there was many years where it wasn't for us. We don't do this for that reason. Of course, we need to live. And so, that's a necessary part of life that we deal with, like everyone deals with, but that is not the reason you do it, for the accolades, for the money, for the fame. If that was the reason, we would have quit a long time ago, and we'd have nothing to say on stage that was worth much, So it's like, right now we get to be paid for something we love to do. One day we might not. We will still lead worship. We'll still write songs. Like, who we are is not love and the outcome. We are Chris and Jodi, and this is just a part of what we get to do.
Wow. Okay. And what advice would you have for people at home? And we live in a world, particularly for the younger generation, who are constantly bombarded. A lot of them, I would say, addicted to social media. It's where they go for their dopamine hits. Have I got enough likes and all the rest of it? And maybe people know they're not looking so much at what God's saying about them. They're very much looking at what the world says about them as well. What advice would you have for people who right now are in that place of comparison and feel that they aren't good enough?
Probably get off social media. I honestly don't know that I'd be on it This is very honest, but it is such a big part of our job. And I had to make peace with that because I wanted to get off of it because I just don't feel it's very positive most of the time. There are positive moments, and I hope that some of our posts are those positive moments for people where they actually feel seen and loved. But a lot of the time, it's impossible to not feel like you're comparing your life to somebody else's, right? So I would definitely unfollow people that don't make you feel loved and valued. Like, just, I think there's a difference between Christian love and also having boundaries. Like, we're not just called to love everybody and follow everybody and be everyone's friend. Like, we have to have boundaries in place to protect our mental health. And so just have some boundaries around it. Maybe have a time frame. I'm going on for 10 minutes, set a timer, then get off. Delete the app for a while. If it's just not serving you well, like, just delete it. Definitely block or unfollow unhealthy accounts.
Yeah.
As a starting place.
That sounds wise. That's
Maybe
right.
a little Mr. Rogers advice.
Yeah.
Follow the people that are helping others.
Right. Yeah. Just curate it. You are in charge of that space. Don't let it feel like it's in charge of you. You are in charge of what you decide to pay attention to.
Yeah. Okay. That's, you know what? I wish my daughter would listen to that advice, because I'm watching her looking at social media, and it definitely does impact her. And it's one of those real struggles as a parent to know how much do you lay down the law? How much do you allow them to walk forward into things that I think are damaging? But
are there rules in the UK around social media for like 18 and under? Because I know it's happening in the States. There's certain states that have kind of banned social media, almost treating it like alcohol.
They're trying.
Yeah, they're trying to put some real like strict boundaries around it because the stats are just so glaring that it just leads people down a really unhealthy path.
Yeah. Well, that sounds to me really wise. I think China only allow gaming for like a certain number of hours of the night, or maybe on a Friday or something, because they noticed that their children weren't doing study, they weren't doing other healthy things.
Right.
And actually it was damaging. So despite running lots of things, they also close lots of things down. So,
and to be honest, we lose a lot of followers over not pleasing everybody. And that happens all the time. And that's not fun. Like, I don't love seeing 100 people drop off. We've had there was one post we made that 8,000 people unfollowed us. Yeah. But you know what? That's life on social media. Not everybody has to agree with you, but we do have to be kind.
Yeah. I've seen people be quite mean sometimes on your posts. And I'm like,
a little rowdy, a little nasty. And it's a good reminder to us, like, hey, I don't have to agree with this person's post, but I can't be a nasty human being. Like, we can love each other and disagree.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is a difficult subject I want to quickly raise. Obviously, it's a month ago that the shootings happened in a school in Nashville. Yeah. Absolutely tragic, heartbreaking stuff. And when I saw the news in the UK, I straight away actually looked to check that your children were okay. But Nashville's quite a close-knit community. Yeah. So I've seen numbers of people who've been posting about actually friends and all sorts of situations of the experience of that day. Yeah. But can you tell us what's the response been from the church and from the community at large? How's things? What was it like, and how things progressed?
Well, thank you for thinking of us. Yeah. I would say, I mean, we probably have slightly more progressive views than a lot of people in the South, but so some things are not changing quite as quickly as we would like them to, but
Canadians and gun culture is different. That's just how it is. Yeah.
There was a situation over the last month that a couple of congressmen were actually booted out of their seats because they were standing up for more,
just a little more like realistic,
common sense gun laws. Yeah. And actually, because of social media and because of people just being reasonable, they were voted back in.
Yeah.
And so the response from the people here has been incredible.
Yeah. Nashville's really rallied.
A lot of prayer. One thing Tennessee is not lacking is prayer.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people were like, hey, we need the church to do more than pray. We also need people to take action. And I think there's this tendency sometimes when prayers are so valuable, and that's the starting place, but our prayers should ultimately lead us towards becoming more Christ-like. And Jesus got really involved. Jesus was always walking and blessing and seeing people, responding, correcting. And so, I don't know, Jesus wasn't passive. Being a peacemaker is not a peacekeeper. Peacekeeper, you can kind of stay out. Peacemaker, you're actively being a part of the change. And so it's been really encouraging to see Nashville pray and then go, how do we help these families? First and foremost, there's been like free therapy provided by donations from other churches and families in Nashville to go, we want to help these people. And then also they lost their school space. So then other churches going, use ours. So just a lot of like, Nashville knows how to like party on Broadway, but we also know how to rally in hard times. You see this culture in the city to go, no, we're going to show up. Yeah. We're going to show up. And that's been really great to see. I mean, it happened 2 miles from our front door. So I'll never forget that moment. I mean, it just affected everybody. Yeah.
I can only imagine how awful that day was for everybody here. It's great to hear that people rallied together. But I can imagine it will be a very long time till that day is different in your memories. And but I'm glad your kids were okay. Certainly.
Thank you.
And but it was scary. It was scary to see, and there's certainly people worldwide were praying in that moment for it. So we got one more track to play from you guys. So it's called "I'm Not Lucky, I'm Blessed." So could you tell us about that track?
Well, a kind of funny title, because we had actually written that song a couple of days before our house flooded. And so we thought this track is, it's awesome. And
what does it mean to be blessed?
What does it mean to be blessed?
Because our life doesn't look so blessed right now. Hashtag blessed life, right? But that's kind of a beautiful thing we love conversations. You know that. That's probably why you were crazy enough to let us on your show. But our songs are conversation pieces. And I think the whole world, maybe we need to relook at what blessing actually means. And the Beatitudes clearly talk about it. And it involves, you're blessed when you hit the ground, when your tears hit the ground, you're blessed when you stay the course, walking steadily with God. That doesn't just say walking steadily with God when life is good. It's like walking steadily with God, right? And that's the Message translation. So blessing is not just fame, fortune, and life going well. Blessing is our connection to God. It's not based on circumstance. It's connected to who God is. And so it's a bop. It's a fun song, and it's about some really hard times that we have this tendency as a band to attach really hard times to really fun, catchy tracks. And hopefully that's what this one is.
Well, Jodi and Chris, thanks so much. This is your track. I'm Not Lucky, I'm Blessed.
I'm not lucky, I'm blessed. I can't deny it. I'm not lucky, I'm blessed. Why try to fight it? I'm not lucky, I'm blessed. I got a good life. I'm not lucky, I'm blessed. I must confess. I'm not lucky, I'm blessed. I'm not lucky, I'm blessed.
And that was I'm Not Lucky, I'm Blessed by Love and the Outcome. I just want to thank Jodi and Chris for sparing time to be with us today to do this very special episode of the Artist Interview, broadcast from their home here in Nashville, Tennessee. They are lovely guys. Why don't you hop on to social media, maybe follow them. Also, of course, go onto streaming platforms. They've got so much great music for you to enjoy. And also maybe you've enjoyed the Artist Interview and think, you'd like to hear more of it. Well, there are many episodes that you can enjoy on the podcast. So just go to your favorite podcast platform and search up the Artist Interview. It's the one with the red logo. You're sure to find it. And please feel free to share it with a friend. There's so much of God's blessing in it. Maybe follow us, like us, whatever it might be. Leave us a review. We'd love that. So, but I'm your host, Gordon T. It's been lovely being with you today, and I look forward to joining you on the next episode of The Artist Interview. God bless you.
You've been listening to The Artist Interview, a Hope FM podcast. Find us at hopefm.com/The Artist Interview.